You're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, where we discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings found in all the Star Trek TV series, movies, and more. And today we're discussing the latest episode of Lower Decks called The Least Dangerous Game. I'm Dom Bettinelli, and joining me today on the panel are Father Cory Sticha. Hey, Father Cory.
How's it going, Dom?
Very well, thanks. And Jimmy Akin. Hey, Jimmy.
Yeah, I'd say Boimler is the least dangerous game.
Folks, be sure to share the podcast with your friends. Help us grow the community and reach more listeners. We rely on you for that, especially. I want to tell you about another show on the network you're sure to enjoy, a new returning show called The Secrets of Middle-earth, where right now we're talking about the latest series from Amazon Prime called The Rings of Power, based on J.R.R. Tolkien's writings. So check it out wherever fine podcasts are found, or at sqpn.com/Middle-earth. So, Jimmy, can you give us a recap of what happens in The Least Dangerous Game?
This week, the Cerritos is in orbit around a planet that has a broken space elevator and where transporters won't work. So First Officer Ransom takes Mariner, Rutherford, and Chief Engineer Billups down. But Ransom is secretly trying to prove Mariner will disobey his orders if she thinks she's right, so he starts making deliberately perverse command decisions. Rather than having the two engineers fix the space elevator while he and Mariner pay a diplomatic call on the natives, he reverses their roles. He has the engineers go pay the diplomatic call while he and Mariner try to fix the elevator. At first, things seem to go fine, but then Billups and Rutherford violate a planetary taboo, and they're about to be sacrificed to a sentient volcano that is worshipped as a deity. Still, Ransom won't budge, so Mariner decides to disobey him and go down to save them. As she's skydiving down to the surface, Ransom calls her and reveals he was testing her to see if she'd disobey him. But he's concluded that she's right, that the engineers are in over their heads and they should go down. To cover her disobedience, Mariner must exhaustedly climb all the way back up the space elevator, after which they both skydive down and Ransom fixes the diplomatic crisis. Meanwhile, Tendi has convinced Boimler that he'll make more progress moving up the ranks if he isn't so cautious and doesn't have to plan everything out in advance. But Boimler goes to the opposite extreme, and instead of making decisions in the moment, he decides to boldly accept any request made of him. This leads him to accept an invitation by a predator-like alien named Cranch who wants to hunt him. Boimler runs from the terrifying Cranch, but eventually stands his ground and tries to become the hunter himself. However, Cranch instantly defeats him. Fortunately, Cranch's race believes in catch-and-release hunting, so he only wants to take a picture of the defeated Boimler, who has earned his respect by trying to become the hunter. In the end, Ransom apologizes to Mariner for testing her, and their relationship is slightly improved. And Boimler decides to continue being bold rather than super cautious. The end.
So the title, The Least Dangerous Game, is one of many takeoffs in TV and movies of a 1924 short story called The Most Dangerous Game, in which a wealthy
Count Zaroff.
Yes, Russian count on a remote island hunts the most dangerous game, which is human beings. So that's where we start. Although
this is game as in animal you hunt, not pleasant activity you play.
Although I think there's a double meaning, because they also start the episode where our four Lower Decks companions.
Oh, here you mean? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I was still talking about the short story.
Right. No, but I mean, in this, there's also that, the least dangerous game. They're also playing off of the fact that they're playing a tabletop board game called Batleths and Binocs, which is obviously a take on Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, and it's got an interactive component, so that you not only are rolling dice, but you've got a screen. And on the screen is Chancellor Martok, voiced by J.G. Hertzler.
That's awesome.
So that was super awesome. And he in the opening video game instructions, he says, "You will all die on this quest, but will you do it with honor?"
Yeah. Yes. And it's interactive. Like they talk to it and it responds, with the pre-programmed responses. Go ahead.
A lot of people pointed out that it likely was a takeoff of the old VHS interactive games that were popular for like 5 minutes in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
Right.
Everybody played them like twice or three times and said, oh, this is too tedious, and put them away.
Well, there was one called Star Trek The Next Generation, a Klingon challenge, which included, Gowron? I forgot the name of the actor now.
Richard something.
Yeah, the actor who played Gowron, but as a different Klingon who had taken over the Enterprise, and you were opposing him, trying to prevent him from taking the Enterprise back to Klingon space. And so there's a little of that. So that game included taped instructions and interactive interactions with Kavok, and so on and so forth. So there's a little bit of that, I think, in there as well, which plays well into the whole ethos of Lower Decks, which is to really dig deep and provide a lot of fan service to the biggest of the big Trekkies. And I really appreciate that.
Well, and there is definitely some fan service to video game players, people who play modern video games, because obviously, first of all, this was created by Ferengi. It's a black market Ferengi game.
Yes,
and Ferengi have obviously kept up the time-honored tradition of pay for downloadable content.
yes, there's definitely DLC. So that's a lot of fun, and it creates our B plot of this episode. Obviously the A plot is this whole story of Ransom and Mariner that is kind of held over from last time, where Mariner was put under Ransom's authority to test her whether she really belongs in Starfleet. And
interestingly, the title is based on the B plot rather than the A plot.
Yeah. I kept looking for ways that it applied to the A plot, but I'm not sure. Anything I picked would have been a stretch, so I don't really think it. Yeah, I think you're right. So yeah, we have this space elevator, which is a lot of fun. I like this. It really recalled the Star Trek. The J.J. Abrams reboot, where they had to skydive off of the space elevator mining rig, whatever that thing was, to Vulcan. So I like that.
Now, Dom, it's not a space elevator. It's an atmospheric lift.
Right.
It's not a space elevator.
Orbital tether platform.
Yes. Right. They kept saying it's not a space elevator. And so, what was the deal with the planet? The whole reason why getting the planetary assignment was so much better is it like a Ryza sort of thing?
Yeah, basically.
Yes. Okay.
Because they greet each other with kisses, not handshakes.
With tongue.
Passionate, very passionate kisses.
Yeah. That's the Lower Decks a little spiciness that they're throwing in there.
And Mariner is all set. She's like, let's go down and start the party. And that's when Ransom says Starfleet isn't all about being fed fruit by erotic aliens with slightly different nose ridges.
I like the slightly different nose ridges thing. let's hang a lantern right on that. Yeah. Sometimes you have to get your hands dirty, is what he says. Yeah. And he obviously doesn't know what the heck he's doing. He's like, I'm a Starfleet officer. I could fix things. This is easy. And he totally doesn't. He totally messes everything up, which is good for the sake of the story. But it's that when they get down to the surface, he, even in his bombastic tear my shirt off way, he still actually manages to get the job done and repair the diplomatic problems.
So initially when Rutherford and Billups are down on the planet, and they're phoning up occasionally to let them know how it's going, and at first it's going great. It's like a party. The aliens are catering to their every whim. They're getting along wonderfully, and then all of a sudden things are really bad because they walked into a sacred hall without exposing their navels. and they're being put on trial. And Billups, it turns out, has in the next phone call, they do expose their navels at that point. It's like, look, we didn't mean any offense. And it doesn't help. And what's even worse is Billups has an outie. And so now they're going to sacrifice him to the sentient volcano Morgo.
Right. They say they have a psychic baby leader, an evil computer, and a volcano. Have you ever heard of overkill? And then they respond, it provides a system of checks and balances, which I thought was awesome.
Well, I love the line they slipped in there. It said, Andy, don't become a king down there. Remember the episode where he had to get laid to become king?
Yes.
Because he's from a fantasy role-playing planet. Yeah.
Right. So that's pretty much. So Ransom stops the volcano sacrifice of Billups and Rutherford.
And the way he does it is as you said, Dom, he tears off his shirt, and it so impresses, thus exposing his navel.
Yes.
And they, by the way, they regard their volcano god as the navel of the world, which is so they have a thing for navels, but it's not unprecedented. There are navels of the world in Earth folklore and religion. So it's something that actually exists here. They've just taken it to another level. But he makes a speech and rips off his shirt, exposing his six-pack and his navel. And the sentient volcano god at that point says, "Your lava tubes are perfect."
Which I guess is his abs, I guess. Yeah.
Well, this is a planet that they prize physical perfection as the highest good.
Right.
Yes, they're a very exercise-oriented culture. In fact, there's a hilarious reference to that as Mariner is having to climb back up the space elevator to get where Ransom is. She encounters a literal climbing wall,
like from a gym,
like you would find in a gym, and all of a sudden the scaffolding she's been climbing turns into a climbing wall, and she's like, "Stupid society built on exercise and wellness."
Yeah. And then she has to pretend when she gets back to the top that she's been there all along, that she didn't disobey orders, that Ransom wasn't right about her, being willing to disobey orders whenever it's inconvenient. And he's like, "All right, let's jump out again." Or let's jump out. And she's like, can we wait a few minutes to just get a rest?
And as they're in free fall the second time, he's all excited and she's just like snoring in her helmet.
Yeah, that's right. Oh man. So that's our B plot. Our A plot is, or whatever.
That was our A plot.
That's our A plot. I don't know. You with this show, it's hard to tell. But so the other plot is Boimler, and so once Rutherford and Mariner have to go to their briefing for their mission, that leaves Boimler and Tendi behind, and they are talking about Boimler's upset that other officers who he considers to be kind of like goofballs are flying up the ranks while he's stuck as an ensign despite making every calculated move to advance. What this refers to a particular Bolian officer that they know,
Captain
called
Vendome.
Right. He's a captain now. And Tendi says, well, look, Vendome volunteered for every mission, no matter how dull, while Boimler weighs every risk and is very cautious and doesn't go on these, and that makes the difference. So Boimler decides, at Tendi's urging, to start volunteering for more. And in fact, Boimler, of course, takes it to the extreme and says, I will volunteer for everything, no matter what. And so he starts off by playing spring ball with Shax and other security guys. And gets ruined, and then
Shax invites him to join his Bajoran dirge choir. So and we get to see them singing Bajoran dirges, and like they're all weeping as they're singing.
And he's invited because he screamed so well when Shax ran over him in the spring ball game.
And then after participating in the dirge choir, Transporter Chief Lundy, who actually has been in previous episodes, though I didn't remember him at first, who is a creepy looking guy, and Boimler's kind of scared of him. He invites him to be a model for his figure drawing class, and so he says yes to that as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we're in the lounge, the whatever passes for 10 forward on the Cerritos, where a bunch of the people who had been stranded on the atmospheric lift I got that right this time, have been taken aboard the Cerritos to wait till it's repaired. And Tendi and Boimler are in there. And they are joined. They see this alien, this hulking, dark alien called Cranch.
And I've got a bone to pick because in the subtitles, his name is spelled K''Ranch. And dudes, okay, memo to everyone in sci-fi television. And I'm looking especially at Stargate SG-1 with Teal'c. If it's got an apostrophe in it, you pause. Mm-hmm. So the name should not be Cranch. It should be Caranch.
Yes.
And similarly, it shouldn't be Teal'c. It should be Teal'c.
Yep.
So don't just, these are not like umlaut rock dots that you just throw in to make it look cool. This actually has a phonetic value.
I guess they do. Yeah. Go ahead.
At least with SG-1, and they're the Goa'uld.
Yes.
Of course, then Don S. Davis couldn't pronounce it, so they came the Gould as far as he pronounced it. But.
Right. It's like Hawaii. You say the I twice. So Caranch is looking for someone to hunt because his species is a hunter species, and so what we basically get is the movie Predator.
Yeah, and I love how he says it's his biologically programmed urge to hunt is weighing on him. And Tendi says, you could ask Dr. Ta'ana if she could help with that.
You could take a pill for that or an injection.
Yeah. Recently, I was reading a comic book. I'd not encountered it when it originally came out, but it's called Shirtless Bear Fighter. And it's about a shirtless man who fights bears. And he fights all kinds of bears. He fights black bears. He fights brown bears. He fights white supremacist polar bears. He fights water bears or tardigrades. He fights gummy bears. He fights Chicago bears. He will fight any bear. Also panda bears and koala bears.
Yes.
But he has a compulsion, and if he doesn't punch a bear in the nose every 24 hours, he starts to get shaky. So it's kind of the same thing.
You sent me the cover of this, the one where he's fighting the koala bears because it looks like drop bears, and it's in the style of those pulpy 1950s, I guess.
Back
adventure,
to the 30s.
Those adventure magazines are intended for young men, that sort of thing. So yeah.
Koalas ripped my flesh.
Yeah. And there's always like a beautiful woman whose clothing is torn, clutching onto him while he's trying to fight off the creatures. So yeah, that's good. Basically, that's Ransom. So we have this sequence of Boimler running through the corridors away from Caranch. When he gets a wound and Caranch puts a bandage on it, is it Caranch dressing? Sorry. So, dad joke. Mm-hmm. So he runs away and, screaming all the while. And Freeman, he comes upon Captain Freeman, and she's remarkably unconcerned at the fact that he's being hunted.
Not at first. At first, he's like, "Help, Captain Freeman! I'm being hunted," and she's like, "We can't have that." And she's about to shut the whole thing. And she's about to shut the whole thing down. And then he says, "Yeah, this alien named Cranch is hunting me." Oh, well, that's completely different. I had lunch with him. He's a great guy. Let the hunt proceed.
Yeah. Right. You gave your word. I want to take my word back.
And so he ends up they shared mimosas together. that was a good one. He ends up hiding in the shuttle bay where he usually works.
Yeah, although first he jumps in cetacean ops.
Oh, right.
And the dolphins are like, "Don't jump in here with dirty shoes. That's messed up."
Yes. That's a teaching off. So you got to do more with that. So he ends up, he knocks into the game board where they were playing the Batless and Binux game, and the Martok interactive figure starts talking, and I forget exactly what the quote is, but it emboldens him to want to, take on take on the what is Caranch's species, like Venarix, and be bold, warrior.
Yeah, it's basically a pep talk from Ferengi simulated Martok.
Right. And so he does this whole thing where he paints his face. It's basically Schwarzenegger in Predator, that scene where he's prepping to fight back against the Predator.
Yeah.
And then jumps out and immediately gets speared by Courage
In the shoulder.
in the shoulder.
First, yet he doesn't immediately get speared. He jumps out, has the element of surprise, and then sits there and monologues until he gets speared.
Right. He gets injured monologuing. And that's when Courage does the my species practices capture and release, and then takes a selfie with an injured Boimler on the ground.
Yeah.
But like the second one where Boimler passes out, and then he takes another one just in case.
Yeah.
But Cranch gives him his props for trying to become the hunter, and he just warns him, when you become the hunter, you don't stand there monologuing.
right. And I guess it's a bit of a funny jab at like the hunting culture, in our society, where the hunters will hunt an animal, and then they'll stop and after they've killed it and take selfies with it and post them online as sort of a brag of like, look at this giant elk I've shot, that sort of thing.
I didn't take it as a I didn't take that as a jab.
No, I don't think it is a jab. I think it's just it reminds you of that same sort of thing, which is you just because that's what people taking selfies with their captures and their kills.
Yeah, and they do that with fishing too. They'll hold up the fish they caught.
Right, and that's where we get catch and release from is fishing. So yeah, I didn't think of it as a criticism per se. I just thought it was like a funny recollection comparing it with the cultures.
Same thing, kind of like taking the last shot of a hunt, instead of, with a rifle, it's with a camera.
Right, exactly. So, we end with, Mariner, Ransom coming back to the Cerritos and having a little bit of a talk, although Mariner never really reveals the fact that she
did disobey.
Right. So, but there's a bit of an attempt at reconciliation. Mariner kind of tells Ransom, what a good job you did. And Ransom comes back kind of like as a jerk, as I don't need to be, praised by a junior underling, but as she leaves, you see him kind of smile anyway. So maybe there's going to be a reconciliation.
Yeah. He appreciated the compliment anyway.
Yeah. And then we have the end of the Batless and Binex game to end the episode, where they end up having to getting this notice where you can continue playing if you buy the next downloadable content from the Ferengi producers of the game.
I love the ending because Boimler was like, I'm going to be confident, so I can confidently go up and order some blood wine from the bartender. And the Bartok says the bartender was unimpressed, and he rips your arms off and kills you with it. And it was a dishonorable death because you literally were killed by your own hand.
Yes. That's right. But you can buy a subscription pass for and an extension pack to continue playing. Oh man, I just said it's very funny. And that's pretty much it. And I mean, there's nothing much deeper in this episode, but there's a lot of fun and some funny, a lot of funny gags and jokes. Anything else to say about this one, Father Cory?
I got a kick out of Ransom as he's trying to fix the atmospheric lift. He's watching a YouTube video on how to fix atmospheric lifts.
That's right. Because we all do that, right? We need to fix a thing and they gotta watch a YouTube video. How about you, Jimmy? Any other things?
No, nothing in particular. When I heard the title was The Least Dangerous Game, I was a little apprehensive because there have been so many adaptations of The Most Dangerous Game. It is, not only direct adaptations like, there was a movie that they made back in the 30s of The Most Dangerous Game, which then inspired the Zodiac Killer. His executioner's costume was apparently based on that of Count Zaroff from the movie. So there have just been endless remakes of this in other media where you'll have people being hunted by somebody, and so I get a little nervous when it's like, oh great, here comes another one. But I enjoyed this one. This was fun. And I'm also glad it was the B plot, because I don't think it would have played as well as an A plot.
Right.
They would have had to drag it out. And it was better to focus on the Mariner A plot. But it was an enjoyable episode, and I liked it.
It's kind of interesting to see how they're continuing to... There's the danger in having a story called Lower Decks, where your characters need to go up the ranks, right? And if they go up the ranks, so they're no longer Lower Decks. So how do you keep... mining that for good fun and entertainment? And so they're continuing to find these ways to have our characters succeed, quote unquote, and yet not succeed. So like Boimler, I'm going to take everything that comes my way in order to go up ranks and have it fail, disastrously. And Mariner having to go through these elements of, I'm a rebellious child in an officer's uniform, but yet I'm not being thrown out of the service. And so they're continuing to do that. So I do like seeing that. All right. So I guess that should do it for this time. We before we go, we want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create The Secrets of Star Trek, including Mark E., Philip W., Rose P., and Harry R. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue The Secrets of Star Trek and all the shows at StarQuest, and you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So that's it from us. We'd love to hear what you think of The Least Dangerous Game. You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/trek, our Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to trek@sqpn.com, or visit our StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/discord. And we'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the next new episode of Lower Decks, Mining the Mind's Mines. Until then, Father Cory Sticha, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Star Trek.
It sounds like there's going to be a lot of mining going in that next episode.
You won't mind it. Jimmy Akin, thank you as well.
Yeah, goo-goo-gajoob to you too, and live long and prosper.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Star Trek on StarQuest. And remember, I'm Bold Boimler from here on out. StarQuest wants to hear from you. We're conducting a survey of our audience. That's you, to help us in our planning for the future. Please take a moment and visit sqpn.com/survey. We'll be selecting 2 participants to receive an Amazon gift card as an expression of our thanks. So visit sqpn.com/survey today.